Hey guys, this is my 1947 Federal. This is a pretty special build to me. It's all about iron workers, it's all about steel workers, it's all about welding, and so there is just all kinds of detail to go through on this truck to try to explain to you how much work went into this thing when we built it. Now, we built this one on TV. It was our 4th season of TV, and I think it was the 2nd build out that we did for our 4th season. And you know, the amount of detail that goes into this thing, we didn't get it on TV. I mean, they focused more on the rear suspension and things like that, which the suspension on this thing is super badass. Justin set this up really well. He did a lot of work on the suspension on this thing, but also the details that went into this thing. I mean, the whole frame on this thing is all 4-inch I-beam, and we've got these big old FOA shocks on here. I mean, it looks really good. It's a long travel truck. You can see the suspension that is set up under here, the long travel kit that's underneath this thing, so we could actually go out and really climb this thing in the hills if we want to. Now, technically, this is not what you'd want to use to build your frame at home. This is all backboned on the backside with some 3/16 plate, all welded all the way down this whole frame. There's a piece of plate on the back to keep this thing rigid. I-beams are meant to twist in earthquakes, and that's not really what we wanted here. But I wanted to give it the look of like an ironworker, something that ironworkers recognize, something that represents an ironworker. So we put the I-beam in here. You can see it's fully got shock towers on this thing that have all been fabricated in the shop that Justin installed. And you know, even if you look at the little motor mounts, you know, these are the details that people don't see, is the little rivets that it takes time to put in all of here, and all the little things, and even all the way up into the motor mounts. All that stuff takes time. Like, these motor mounts are all TIG welded together. There's time put into this, but those are the details that you don't see on TV that you actually get to see when you walk in the Welder Up shop, and you get to see them. And of course on this video that I'm trying to show you right now. This is a what actually was like a 91 92 Dodge bottom end block out of a 1st gen Cummins diesel. We put a 12 valve head on it, we put a P pump on it, and we set a couple of twin turbos on this thing. The motor runs really good. It's a lot of horsepower for what it is. I mean, we got a lot of tire on here and a pretty tall gear, so you got to be careful because you could tear some shit up in a hurry with it. So as you can see underneath the truck right here, all the drag links, the steering bar, the sway bar in the front, it's all made. You can see this bucket's all made. This was made to keep the front end of the truck going back and forth. We got our drag links that are in here that are all made, TIG welded and built and fabricated right at the Welder Up shop. So these are little things that you don't really get to see. I mean, even up here where the steering box is at, we moved the steering box forward, and then we actually had to fab it in here and build a box for it so we could use the factory Dodge steering box. So what's cool about this truck is everything on it works. It's all mechanical, and that's kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to keep this truck something that would have been built probably in the late 40s or the 50s. It's got this mechanical PTO driven winch on the front of it. There's actually a drive shaft that runs from here to the transfer case that runs the winch. So if we get stuck somewhere, we can pull the old truck out. I wanted to put the snatch blocks on here and put the rope on here just basically for looks. This is something they would have used back in the old days, and it's just cool looking on the front of the truck. So we got these Falcon tires. They look pretty bitchin' on here. And then we got these American Racing wheels, 22.5s. They look good on the truck. I thought it just, you know, big wheels on this truck had to go on it. It just makes it look good. As you can see on this side, we have a set of compound turbos on it. So basically you have your small turbo right here spooling your big turbo, so we can make a lot of horsepower, which sometimes isn't good with big tires because it's not good on your clutch, it's not good on your transmission, it's not good on mileage, but it looks cool, you know what I mean? me show you the inside. So it's pretty simple. There's not a lot going on right here, but these trucks were simple back in the old days. Cool thing is we had Junior's Upholstery build us a badass seat. As you can see in here, it says Welder Up Ironworkers up in the back of the seat, which turned out really good. My cousin Dave did all the striping inside and made it look really cool. Travis Dieter went in and made all these little cutouts, so you could actually, he took these out of his grandpa's welding instruction book from back in the old days. These are probably cooler back in the 30s or 40s, and we just wanted to make it look like an old memory on the door. It turned out really good. Okay, so moving back to the back of the bed is like where it really is happening. This is all the business back here. This is the detail. This is the fun part. This is where my strong point come in on building this truck. You know, first of all, I mean, just the structure of the bed. It's all a 4-inch I-beam. It's overlaid with some 3/16 plate. The cool thing about it is everything on it's some, like these old wrenches right here. These were basically just some old wrenches that I found in an old building, and I made my lead holder out of it, so you can just wrap your leads up. I found an old fuel tank. I think it was out in the back of my shop, and put it in there. It's got a fast pump on the back right here. As you can see, we took the fast pump and we made it look like it was atrocious because we want to look like it's pulling sludge out of this thing. And that being said, you could run engine oil in this thing. You could run transmission fluid in this thing. I could fill this tank up with literally used engine oil and drive it around. That's what's so great about these trucks. With that motor that's in it and the fast pump that's on this thing, you can get away with a lot of stuff. As you can see on the back of this thing, we have an electrode off an old welder. So we just took all the components out of an old welder and we hooked it to a 4-cylinder Cummins diesel. It's a twin turboed 4B Cummins. We had Industrial Injection send us a P pump for it. So we P pumped it, put a front cover on it to marry up the P pump to it, and we've got probably 400 horse going on right there right now. So it's pretty cool. The welder does work, works really good. What we got here is we've got the air gauge. These gauges actually work. This is our air gauge. Once it gets up to about 120 psi, it blows off back here and it just keeps constant air pressure in this thing. So if you wanted to run an air gun or maybe a plasma cutter or an air arc, you could probably get away with it with this. It works really good. The air compressor, I will show you on the other side, is actually engine driven off the front cover of the 4-cylinder Cummins, which is really cool. But we've got a couple of Nitrous Express bottles in here, which are set up to just blow the motor up at any given moment if I want. Now I'm just kidding. Actually, they're air tanks and they're set up so I can run additional air to the tanks. And I just thought that these would look really good on here because I love Nitrous Express. It's cool stuff. Oxyacetylene bottle on here. We can cut whatever we want. We can torch weld with it. This is a cool piece. I found all the old gauges and the Victor end on this thing I found in an old building. I don't know if you guys seen the episode, but there's some really cool places where I found a bunch of the old stuff that's on this truck. This old shear right here actually came out of that old building. This is our handle, which goes on here, and then that way, if you want to cut a piece of plate or a flat bar, you can run a piece of round bar in here and cut it in half, or if you just want to cut a piece really quick. But I close it like this and put this away so kids don't cut their fingers off sitting in the parking lot, because I do drive this thing. I drive it to work and back a lot. Okay, moving around to the back, we've got this piece of angle iron that is put in here, and a piece of flat bar right here, because if you got a piece of plate, you can lay it on here, you can clamp it down. If you're trying to weld two pieces of pipe together, you'll stick them in here and tack it and roll it, and what it does is basically just keeps your round pipe or square tubing squared up, so it doesn't, when you're done, it's not out of round. So this old drill press came out of that old building. It actually works. It's really handy to have on the truck. You just plug it in, drill a few holes. We got this old anvil. It actually is a very, very old anvil. It's all hand forged. It's a really neat piece. It works. We use the hammer on it. I mean, it's a solid old piece. It looks really good on the truck. As you can see on here, We have a lot of bottle caps right here. These are the bottle caps that go on the top of a torch, oxyacetylene. And I just cut a bunch of holes in it with the plasma cutter. So when the lights come on, we put LEDs behind it, you can really see the lights light up. So it turned out really good. Okay, this is our 4-cylinder Cummins diesel. Now what's kind of cool is all of our water lines run to the same radiator that's in the front. And Icebox Custom built us a custom radiator for this thing, so we could run all the fluid from the front radiator to this one here. So you could feel it right now, and it's warm because I've been out driving it around. So you don't really have to warm up your welder when you pull up the job. You can just fire it up and go to welding. It's got a set of twin turbos on it. We got an electric water pump on it. This is our tachometer right here. So when we can actually, right here is how I will be able to learn what RPM I want it at when I'm welding with, say, 7018 or 3/16 or 332. I can do it off RPM. So that's what's really cool about it. And I just got all these little mix shift gauges on here to kind of give it something to look at when it's going down the road. But it's pretty cool. It actually welds, and it's a great little welding machine. Okay, so this is an engine driven air compressor, meaning that this part goes inside of here and runs on one of the gears inside of this front cover right here. And what we got is a piston in here, so this will drive this, and it's onboard air all the time. So as soon as you fire this engine up, boom, you got air pressure. It's going into the tanks and keeping up with the air pressure. This is probably the best source of air pressure that you can probably get. It's onboard air all the time, so it's always running. All right, guys, let's fire up this old welder and let's do some welding. That's what it was made to do. So let's hook it up and run some rod through this thing. Welder up. Okay guys, so that's the iron rod. This is what we do with it. It's pretty cool. Like I said, I drive this thing home. I use it. If I come home, I need to weld something in the yard. I drag this old truck over there. I fire it up and I weld it together. So that's what it was built to do, and it works, and I love it. So thank you for watching this episode with the iron rod. Hopefully you guys can make it to Welder Up. Come check it out. We'll see you later.